Russello, the Mavericks piece, I'm just not so sure their defense is actually good. I know that all postseason long and for the last 3 months of the season, they've been one of the best defenses in the league, but I just don't see it. Russello, the Thunder thing. I just think they're better. I just think they're a better team, Russello. I refuse to give the Mavericks any credit. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mavericks are one win away from the conference finals for the second time in 3 years after a impressive Game 5 win on the road in Oklahoma City. I was there. I was in attendance. Hey, what are you going to do about it? I was there, and I got to say the crowd's absolutely awesome. Shout out to all the Thunder fans there. They were really cool to me. The guy next to me was like, pretty sure I'm subscribed to you on YouTube. He pulled it up, and he was. I mean, just one of the 20,000 people in the world, right? 20,000, soon to be a million. This will be the last video, by the way, of us on the penthouse balcony suite. The room I usually record in has had unblocked slightly shirts everywhere. I'm mailing all of those out today, so we'll be good to go from here on out. But I just want to talk about this series, and I want to talk about the Mavericks and how good they've been defensively so far in the series, because for some reason there's been this talking point going around that the Mavericks defense has been fine, but it's more so the Thunder being young and inexperienced and uncomfortable and just missing shots that they normally would hit, because I think that that's bullshit. I really do, and I do not think that's fair at all to the Dallas Mavericks, who have proven now over the last month or so, 2 months, 3 months, that they are genuinely one of the best defensive teams in the league. And I said this in the video after Game 4, and I meant it, that this, from what I've seen in the postseason, the Mavericks have been the second best defense in the NBA this postseason, behind just the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I stand on that. People are upset by that. I stand on that. I think that's true. Full stop. The Celtics have played equivalent. What's the equivalent of 7th grade B team teams when it comes to the playoffs, all right? These teams that the Celtics are playing shouldn't even fucking be here. All things considered with all the injuries. Either way, that's neither here nor there. I want to talk about this because it actually gets my blood pumping a little bit. It just makes me a little bit angry. Maybe it's because usually I'm used to the Mavericks being terrible defensively, so now that they're good, I want them to get the credit that they very much so deserve. This idea that the Thunder are not shooting well from three, that they're shooting well below their season averages, and that they're just missing open looks. Look, the Thunder were the third best offense in the NBA this season with a 120 offensive rating, right? They were incredible both in the half court, both in transition, and so far this series, outside of Game 1, where the Thunder just could not miss from three in the second half. I think they shot 60% from three in the second half of that game. It's just been really, really difficult for them. And from Game 2 onwards, the Mavericks have been in complete and total control of this series. At no point over the last 4 games, including the game the Mavericks lost, did I feel like the Thunder were a better team than them, that I feel like the Thunder would win this series, and I still stand on that. I said before the series started, I picked the Mavs in 6. I thought if Luka was closer to 100% than he is 40%, which is close to around what I think he's at, that I would feel very confident about Mavericks in 5, and I still stand by that. The Mavericks just look like a better team currently, and the Thunder just, it looks like, don't have the answers to respond to what the Mavericks are doing, where it feels like the Mavericks do have the answers to respond to what the Thunder were doing, okay? And in Game 5, I'm going to continue to say this because, 1, I get to humble brag that I'm at the games, but also, 2, it's true. When you see the Mavericks defense in person and you see them fly around the floor, you see their rotations, you see their help, you see their recovery, you see their closeouts, you see how disciplined they are on their closeouts, you see the communication. This defense is on a string. Okay, and look, the Thunder, you look at some of the numbers, I saw some tweets going around that the Thunder are actually shooting above their season average on open threes in this series, something like 42%. The thing is they're just not getting those looks. They're not generating those looks at the level in which they did in the regular season, and on what the NBA considers open shots, which is, I believe, 2 to 6 feet, something like that, where defenders basically closing out, they're shooting 28% on those threes. Now, you can look at this a bunch of different ways. I've seen people who just do not want to give the Mavericks defense credit for whatever reason, use this to say, oh, see, the Thunder are just missing shots that they normally would hit. And I just wonder if they're watching the series and watching the game, because it's one thing, right? And I'm going to compare some Thunder makes to Mavs makes. It's one thing when Luka or Kyrie have the ball and they're attacking, whether that's they're getting downhill or they beat a guy off their dribble, or they got a pick and they have a defender on their hip and they're going downhill, and the defense is collapsing in to stop everything the Mavs are doing, and they're kicking out the Derrick Jones Jr. or PJ Washington, who are completely and totally by themselves to shoot a 3, versus what the Thunder are doing, where they're driving and driving and driving, and the Mavs defense is rotating on a string, and a guy, end of shot clock, gets a pass as he's relocating, as he's moving, and a 6'6", 6'7" defender with a 7-foot wingspan is contesting on your shot and closing out. That's considered an open shot, right, by the NBA standards and rules, but that's not an easy shot. These aren't easy shots. And that's I keep seeing, there's like this video going around of all the Thunder misses, and they're like, oh, see, the Thunder beat themselves. I'm watching half of these shots. I'm like, that's good defense. What are you talking about? Those are all good contests, right? Because the Mavericks have Derrick Jones Jr., 7-foot wingspan, contesting these shots. Derrick Jones Jr. again blocked a 3 to pretty much ice the game. Blocked a Chet 3, a 7-footer's 3 on a closeout, and then got a dunk on the other end. I mean, how many threes has Derrick Jones Jr. blocked this postseason? It feels like a ton. Right? But the Mavericks just aren't giving up these looks. And then you have Derrick Jones Jr., who's got a 7-foot wingspan. PJ Washington has, I think, a 7-foot wingspan. Luka very quietly has a 7-foot wingspan. And then you watch like the closeouts of guys like Derek Lively, this 20-year-old rookie center, the 7-footer, right? Usually you see, 7-footers close out and they're a little, they're lumbering bigs, right? They're a little out of control, and that leads to blow-bys. He's incredibly controlled. And that's one thing about the Mavericks, and you got to give Jason Kidd so many props here, is that the Mavericks just look very disciplined in what they are doing. They look very disciplined. They know the scouting report. They know the game plan. For example, Lou Dort, 40% catch and shoot three-point shooter. Okay, there's clearly something in the scouting report that says the moment he dribbles, whether he's trying to drive and attack or he's, pump faking, get a defender to fly by, boom, I'm doing a little reset, sidestep, step back, whatever the case may be, his percentages dip because the moment he catches the ball, the Mavericks fly at him. I mean, literally jump up, fly at him. They're preventing that initial catch and shoot, making him do something else. Where on the other end, you have a guy like J-Dub who's taken 5 catch and shoot threes in this series. 5 over the course of 5 games. Right, the moment he catches the ball, he's always doing a little hesitation, and the Mavericks are staying down on that, not biting on that, because they know that he's trying to up fake, get a defender up in the air so he can drive and attack. And they've done a great job at staying disciplined and staying down on those, right? And I think that's why J-Dub has struggled a little bit in this series to really, really get going. And they know with Chet, he's a 7-footer, right? He doesn't have the quickest release. You can contest on those, whether it's a side contest, just get a hand up. These aren't the easiest of shots, and I just want to say that. Now, it's entirely possible that the Thunder come out in Game 6 and just go nuclear from 3. They are kind of due a game like that. But it will just be because they got hot from 3. It's not because they're getting wide open looks because the Mavericks defense is allowing that. The Mavericks defense is giving up threes, but they're tough threes. They're not easy threes. They're giving up long twos. And we talked about this after Game 4. The Thunder, 25% of their shots in that game are long mid-range shots, and you live with that. 19% of their shots in Game 5 are long mid-range shots. Those are shots that you're cool with. I think that was in like the 95th percentile or something like that in games for the entire season. So just a ridiculous volume of those shots. That's what the Mavericks defense is forcing. They're collapsing it on the paint. They have size and length and rim protectors. So this idea that the Mavericks defense doesn't deserve a lot of credit or whatever the case may be is just fucking stupid. And it hurts my heart that these are people who talk about basketball for a living. Some of them who are saying this. Obviously, Bill Simmons. There's other Twitter accounts who I don't want to say who they are because apparently through Locked On, I'm friends of the show through proxy for some of these people, and I don't want to say who they are, but you could probably use some context clues and figure it out. But it's actually angering me a tiny bit. I have to be real. It's angering me a tiny bit. And then on the other end, offensively, I feel like the Mavericks have figured stuff out. Okay, I saw Mark Followell tweeted out that was the slowest pace the Mavericks have played all season long. In Game 5, they've clearly figured out if we just slow the game down, stop turning the ball over, doing stupid shit, and I still think they had some turnover problems, but it's not as bad as it has been in this series. Stop turning the ball over, stop doing stupid shit, slow this game down, let's get into the half court, and we feel comfortable. And a big reason for that was because Luka Doncic had, I don't know if it was his best game of the postseason so far, but he looked good. Like, he looked good getting downhill. I think it's hilarious. It always makes me laugh. I have to be honest. I always wonder what people think, where I come on here after Game 4 and like, Luka has to focus on the game. And for the most part, I'd say like 80% of people agreed with that. But then the 20% was like, oh, no, how can you say that? You don't mean that. And then during the game and after the game, Luka after Game 5 was like, yeah, I just had to focus on the game. And everyone's like, we love you, Luka. You're so right. No, I said that. I'm right. He heard me and then said that. That's what happened here. But you could just, his post-game interview and stuff. Oh, he was on some of the best shit. He's on stuff that they only give to Kentucky Derby racehorses. All right, he's locked the fuck in. He is locked. He might not have even known what planet he was on during that game. All right, but if that's the Luka you're gonna get in Game 6, this series is done. I'm telling you that right now. Just full stop. I don't like making proclamations like that. But if Luka comes out and looks like how he did in Game 5, this series is a wrap. It's over. It's done with. I don't see the Thunder having enough answers for the Mavericks unless they go like 60% from 3. I thought I saw a ginormous ass wasp out of my peripheral. They're out and about here on this balcony. But I thought Luka was great getting downhill, getting to his spots. His playmaking was unbelievable. I mean, that was a vintage Luka game. Vintage Luka, as if Luka's like a 34-year-old past his prime. But that was like the Luka we've seen all season long, where he's generating so much pressure on the defense because of his scoring, and you could just tell the help was a little. They were a couple. The guy in the weak side corner was a couple more steps in than he usually was. Right, the help was a little bit quicker to get there than it maybe was earlier in this series, and Luka's just dotting up the defense. Open look after open look. And Kyrie Irving, I thought, did similar things as well. So I just think as it stands right now, with the Mavericks up 3-2, it feels like they feel more comfortable in this series. That's felt the case really from game 2 onwards. It feels like they have more answers for what the Thunder can throw at them than what the Thunder have for the Mavericks. And I'd be a little bit surprised if this goes 7. I just have to be upfront and honest with you. I'll be at game 6 cheering my ass off. If you see me, say hello. I know if these videos seem low effort or whatever compared to what I usually do, I apologize. I don't have the time right now. And again, like I said, I have shit all over my apartment. That's just preventing me from going to the places I usually go to. But that's what the playoffs are about. We adapt. Okay? We react to what goes on around us, and we adapt. All right, ladies and gentlemen? That's all it is. Lock in or get locked out.